Welcome to the Tim Booker channel, where wisdom is worth sharing. We wish you a pleasant listening experience. The book we are interpreting today is called The Power of 50 Bits, with the subtitle, The New Science of Turning Good Intentions into Positive Results. It explores how to make rational decisions for yourself and others in life and put them into action. Have you ever found yourself in situations where you're annoyed by frequent push notifications on your phone, yet you can't resist checking them? Or perhaps you want to maintain your physique but can't resist unhealthy snacks. You know something needs to be done, but you keep procrastinating. Why do our actions often misalign with our true intentions? This book reveals that this behavior is a result of long-evolved brain patterns, and it can be overcome. Interestingly, the author is not a psychologist or philosopher but a true-blue engineer. He used the rigorous and scientific mindset of an engineer to design a system based on fundamental human behavioral principles and conducted extensive experiments to test it, retaining what worked and adjusting what didn't. In the end, he presents us with insights into why we act against our true intentions and how to fundamentally change these behaviors to make rational decisions and take action. The author of this book, Bob Neese, once served as the chief scientist of a major pharmaceutical company in the United States. As a PhD researcher in the field of applied behavior in healthcare, he has been applying his theoretical experience to areas beyond healthcare, such as the workplace, family, and communities. Today's book is a summary and expansion of his experiences in these areas. With a wealth of research samples and practical experiences, the author offers a perspective quite different from ordinary psychologists, and the strategies he presents are highly practical in everyday life. In this episode, we will introduce 3 effective strategies that can guide people to make rational decisions, activating strategies to directly change behavior, enhancement strategies to reinforce good intentions, and a super strategy that can be widely applied. Before delving into these strategies, it's important to understand why our actual actions often differ from our inner desires. In this book, the author introduces a novel concept called the 50-bit thinking mode. What does it mean? The human brain can process 10 million bits of information per second, but only 50 bits are processed consciously, belonging to conscious thought. The other 99.99% of thoughts are unconscious. In other words, a significant portion of human actions occurs in the subconscious, beyond our awareness and control. In fact, lack of focus and laziness are innate tendencies of the human brain, and humans are inherently irrational. For example, most people prefer high-fat or high-sugar foods, sometimes even indulging in overeating. These behaviors often lead to regrets because, during the long course of human evolution, resources were scarce. In such an environment, consuming high-calorie food and overeating were adaptive behaviors. The discrepancy between our initial intentions and our actions is not due to a lack of self-control but rather because the brain's adaptation during evolution is at odds with the environment in which we now exist. Additionally, certain shortcuts have evolved in our behavior, such as naturally aligning our behavior with societal norms and being particularly sensitive to fraudulent behaviors that violate social contracts. Furthermore, most of us prioritize avoiding losses over pursuing gains. We are more willing to seize immediate benefits while deferring losses to the future. Understanding these factors can help explain the existence of procrastination, as we tend to prioritize short-term gains for maximum psychological satisfaction and delay potential losses. These tendencies are determined by the brain's physiological mechanisms. Some shortcuts in processing information guide our behavior, leading to the gap between our good intentions and our actual actions. So, how can we overcome these limitations of the brain? The 50-bit thinking mode tells us that many times, wrong choices are not necessarily driven by bad ideas. Instead, most people have good intentions in their subconscious. Our task is to ignite these good intentions and transform them into positive behaviors. The book introduces 7 strategies, and we'll discuss them one by one. The first strategy is to actively request others to make choices, and this is an activating strategy. In 2008, during the U.S. presidential election, Barack Obama's campaign team discovered that in Indiana, among white voters over the age of 30 willing to participate in voting, McCain had a 16% lead over Obama. Obama's campaign team knew they faced a tough task in this state. So, how could they persuade these older white voters to switch from McCain to Obama? They realized that changing these voters' minds was unlikely. Instead, they took a more effective approach, focusing on persuading young people in Indiana to vote. While McCain had an advantage among older white voters, he had none among young people aged 18 to 29. Obama had significantly higher support among this demographic. So, Obama's campaign team worked hard to mobilize more young people to vote, and as a result, Obama emerged victorious. What they did was tap into the latent desires of young voters and activate their inner needs for Obama. Let's consider another example. From 2007 to 2011, the U.S. economy went through a particularly tough period with economic recession and a significant reduction in charitable donations. However, a non-profit organization called Smart Pet Charity saw no decline in their donations despite the economic downturn, and during this time, individual donations to the organization increased by 85%. This was quite surprising given the economic recession. The organization had a close relationship with a pet product retailer. Researchers found the secret to the success of Smart Pet Charity in raising donations at the cash registers of retail stores. When customers were about to make payment via credit card, a pop-up window appeared on the screen, posing a simple question: would you like to donate to homeless pets? For the convenience of the customers, the screen also offered suggested donation amounts and a prominent "No, thanks" button. This is the strategy of actively requesting others to make choices. When using this strategy, it often makes people pause in their current actions, present several options, and encourage them to think about how to proceed. In the case of the pet charity organization, customers were willing to donate to homeless pets simply because the organization tapped into their 50-bit thinking and activated their inner kindness. This strategy can also help individuals with a sweet tooth manage their impulses. Studies show that many of our dietary decisions are spontaneous rather than well-considered. So, these decisions are heavily influenced by our environment. Research has demonstrated that placing candy within easy reach can lead to more mindless consumption. If the candy is moved further away, it can effectively reduce consumption because reaching for it requires engaging the 50-bit thinking. Similarly, we can use the same technique at home to help ourselves and family members make dietary decisions that align with our true intentions. For example, when setting the table for dinner, we can place vegetables and water within easy reach and put meat, potatoes, and alcoholic beverages further away. This arrangement encourages individuals to contemplate whether they genuinely want to eat meat or drink alcohol before making the effort to reach for them. These simple changes can help us manage our weight more effectively. So, that covers the first strategy, actively requesting others to make choices, helping people activate their 50-bit thinking and consider their true needs and desires, ultimately bridging the gap between their needs and actual behavior. Now, let's move on to the second strategy, which is called pre-commitment. Pre-commitment is also an activating strategy. What is pre-commitment? For instance, if you feel that watching TV is a waste of time but find it hard to control yourself, you can relocate the TV or place it in a less comfortable viewing location. This is a form of pre-commitment. It involves making decisions in the present that are conducive to better future behaviors. Typically, to achieve this, you make a certain behavior less possible or increase its difficulty and cost. For example, in the TV show Sex and the City, the protagonist, to prevent herself from binge eating, took a few bites of food before spraying window cleaner on the rest. Another example is a medication for alcoholism in the United States. After taking this medication, if you consume alcohol, you will experience nausea. These are examples of pre-commitment methods that help people make a commitment in advance to convert good intentions into actual actions. In the examples mentioned, pre-commitment is behavior-based. There is also a form of pre-commitment that is outcome-based. For instance, you can establish a binding agreement with yourself that sets goals and requires you to accept specific penalties if you breach the agreement. In the United States, there is a website that already offers such contracts, covering various categories like weight loss, quitting smoking, and fitness, with various penalty options. For example, disclosing your breach to friends or directly deducting fines from your linked credit card. These methods are highly effective. The website's user data analysis indicates that as the cost of breaching commitments increases, the proportion of users successfully adhering to their commitments also rises. These pre-commitment contracts can directly translate people's commitments into actual actions. Their punishment or incentive mechanisms make future behaviors more attractive, strengthening users' motivation to improve their behaviors. So, that concludes the second strategy, pre-commitment. This strategy encourages people to make certain decisions in the present to weaken the attractiveness of specific future behaviors or make them completely unattainable. Okay, now let's talk about the third strategy, known as voluntary exit, which is also an activating strategy. This strategy essentially leverages people's tendencies towards laziness and procrastination and turns them into positive factors for improving behavior. We all know that body donation is of significant importance to medical research and saving lives. Unfortunately, most people do not leave any record of their willingness to donate their bodies before they pass away. In some countries, if people wish to donate their organs, they must sign a consent form while they are alive. In other countries, organ donation is the default option, and individuals have to opt out if they don't want to donate. Statistics reveal a significant difference in organ donation rates between these two types of countries. In countries with default organ donation, the organ donation rate ranges from 85% to 100%. In countries where individuals need to sign a donation consent form, the organ donation rate is only 4% to 27%. As you can see, by setting a positive and correct behavior as the default option, you can significantly increase the likelihood of people adopting good behavior. The voluntary exit strategy is often more effective than the strategy of actively requesting others to make choices. However, due to legal and ethical considerations, we may not be able to automatically assume that everyone agrees with a particular course of action. For example, if most people in a country are unwilling to donate organs, you cannot automatically assume that everyone who passes away will donate. Nevertheless, under various conditions that allow for it, this strategy can be implemented effectively. So, that concludes the third strategy, voluntary exit, which involves making people default to a behavior that a vast majority would not object to. Now, let's move on to the fourth strategy, influencing through cues, which is an elevating strategy. It's about using hints or reminders to engage people's 50-bit thinking. In American supermarkets, major cereal brands like Kellogg's and General Mills go to great lengths to achieve one goal, occupying the eye-level shelf space. You might not have noticed, but for packaged foods, the position on the shelf is crucial. Consumer attention and feedback are valuable and scarce resources. Placing products where they are most likely to be seen, at eye level, is a highly effective sales technique. Similarly, reminders like the oil change light on a car's dashboard or the chime indicating the end of a washing machine cycle and adding a stimulating scent to natural gas to alert people to leaks, all of these examples use various cues to capture people's attention and gain more focus. The fifth strategy is called restructuring options, another elevating strategy that involves rephrasing information effectively. Let's revisit the example of the screen used by the Smart Pet charity organization to solicit donations. If they changed the prompt from "donate to homeless pets" to "donate to animal shelters," would as many people be willing to contribute? Clearly, the latter phrase lacks the emotional appeal of words like home and pets. The emotional connection between people and pets is significantly reduced. Homeless pets carries a lot more emotional weight, suggesting that these animals are not just strays or wild animals, they are pets who should have been part of a family. Behind each homeless pet, there is undoubtedly a heartbreaking story. If nobody helps them, the world becomes a cold and terrifying place for them. So, you see, words matter, don't they? In this case, the powerful emotional impact can trigger people's kindness. Let's consider another scenario. After ordering food in a restaurant, as the server takes the menu, they say, "All right, I'll bring your order shortly," or "All right, I'll bring your order to you shortly." With just 2 extra words, doesn't it create a closer social interaction? In the strategy of restructuring options, we can also leverage social norms and people's tendency to avoid losses, as mentioned earlier. For instance, in an experiment studying how to encourage hotel guests to reuse towels, 2 different signs were placed in different rooms. One sign simply appealed for help in saving the environment. The other utilized the power of social norms, stating, "Join your fellow guests in saving the environment, and reuse your towels." The difference in the effectiveness of these 2 signs was quite apparent. People often pay close attention to behavioral patterns when making decisions, observing what others are doing and following suit. So how can we use people's fear of losses? In communications with patients, for example, a quick-fix drug company may recommend a cost-effective treatment to a patient. They emphasize how much money can be saved by adopting this treatment, compared to the cost of not adopting it. As you can see, changing people's behavior through option restructuring is a cost-effective and highly effective method. Now, that covers the fifth strategy, restructuring options, using more compelling language to convey information and influence people's behavior. Let's move on to the sixth strategy, riding on the coattails, which is also an elevating strategy. What does this mean? It involves guiding people's behavior habits using a more interesting and enjoyable approach that the majority find appealing. Let me provide an example to illustrate this concept. Despite toothbrushing practices dating back thousands of years to ancient Egypt, it wasn't until the early 20th century when a toothpaste called Pepsodent was introduced in the United States that Americans gradually adopted the habit of brushing their teeth. Over the following decade, toothbrushing saw explosive growth across the United States. What was it about Pepsodent toothpaste that had such a magical power to change the long-standing habit of Americans not enjoying toothbrushing? The key was that this toothpaste, in its initial design, included a hint of peppermint. This provided Americans with a previously unparalleled experience of a cool, refreshing sensation in their mouths during toothbrushing. Unbeknownst to them, they were forming a daily habit of brushing their teeth to prevent tooth decay, driven by this fresh sensation. Another classic example of using the riding on the coattails strategy to guide people's behavior is the common challenge faced by janitors due to splashes around toilets. One airport manager came up with a clever solution. He had fly images etched onto the inside of the toilet bowls. After that, people, as if by instinct, aimed at the flies, reducing splashes by a staggering 80%. This method has since gone global, and many children now find the process of eliminating flies quite enjoyable, turning proper bathroom etiquette into a fun activity. So, this is the sixth strategy we wanted to discuss, riding on the coattails, which can effectively help people cultivate healthy behavior habits and make long-term beneficial decisions. So, up to this point, I have introduced 6 effective strategies for changing yourself and influencing others. The final strategy, widely used as a super strategy, is rational simplification. In essence, it means making the right options simpler and easier while making the wrong options more complex and challenging. If others can subconsciously accept your ideal behavior based on instinct and intuition, it enhances the fluency of that option. Some simple and interesting examples might make this point clearer. For instance, if a company's name is easy to pronounce and sounds convenient, its stock price on the day it goes public is often higher. Conversely, companies with difficult-to-pronounce names usually have lower stock prices at the initial public offering. If a drug's name is hard to pronounce, its popularity tends to be lower compared to drugs with easily pronounceable names. Similarly, if a company wishes to encourage its employees to exercise more by taking the stairs instead of using the elevator, it should place the stairs in a convenient and well-lit location to make them more appealing. Positioning the elevator further away and putting up signs on the wall reminding people of the benefits of taking the stairs can further encourage this behavior. So, that brings us to the end of today's content. Let's summarize what we've shared today. First, why is there often a gap between our intentions and our actual actions? This happens because the human brain can process only about 50 bits of information per second, and 99.99% of our thoughts are unconscious. Inattention and inertia are instinctual tendencies of the human brain. 7 strategies can help us overcome these instincts and improve our choices and behavior. These 7 strategies include 3 directly effective activating strategies, 3 elevating strategies that reinforce good intentions, and 1 widely applicable super strategy. For example, if you want to lose weight, move snacks and candies further away. If you want to reduce TV time, move the TV to a less comfortable viewing location. If you want a new product to gain popularity, start by giving it an easily pronounceable and catchy name, and so on. These 7 strategies together form a behavioral improvement plan. However, it's important to note that these strategies are not meant to change people's thoughts or distort their intentions. Instead, they aim to help individuals discover the positive intentions hidden within them and make scientifically informed decisions based on those intentions to achieve their goals. If you can master these 7 strategies and apply them in your daily life, I believe they will be of significant assistance. That concludes today's content. Congratulations on completing another book. Thank you for your support and attention. Please subscribe to the Tim Booker channel, like and share with your family and friends. Wisdom is worth sharing, so let's embark on a brighter future. Thank you, and goodbye.